Gas masks and grenades. Gas masks and grenades. Gas masks and grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.
Hey, what is shaking, everybody? An astral Sunday for you. We lost Peter already. Boom. What the fuck? Oh, God. Just nothing could ever go right, for fuck's sake. Oh, there you go. There goes my 2 fucks inside of 1 minute. But anyway, whatever. We're having issues with Peter. After we got his computer, we thought it was all good. It ain't good, but you guys can unmute. Welcome everybody to Gas Masks and Hand Grenades. Welcome. We are back again after a short night. I was up until 5 a.m. with Dennis last night, deep diving the Y&T catalog, and a little worse for wear, but not too bad. And look who I have here. I've got my friends, Mr. Jimmy from Future Ruins. What's up, Jimmy?
What's going on, guys?
And we've got the magnificent and marvelous Mr. Kellen from Killing for Company, and we had Peter. We had him here. I don't know, man. Best laid plans. Peter, just try to get in, dude. I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm not sure what's going on your end. I don't know if there's an outage on your internet, but it just said you were disconnected. So we'll hopefully catch you on the fly in here.
That was so funny. Like, we finally got it working, and then as soon as we popped up, he dropped out.
Gone. Yeah. So I don't know, man. Anyway, well, guys, we're here to talk about the new Blut Aus Nord album, which came out November 28th on Debemur Morti. And that album is called what, Jimmy?
Ethereal Horizons.
Yes, and we've, in the past year, the newbie here, we've added you into the fray here as the newbie. In the past, the last 2 years, I guess, or last 3 years, I guess it was, 22, 23, I think it was. Kellen and I and Peter, after we did that exhaustive 6+ hour, 2-part Blut Aus Nord deep dive on Kellen's channel, we decided to kind of make it an annual thing when Vinsval and the boys, Gost and WD Feld. I still don't know whether I believe there's a real band here. I still don't know. But anyway, when they came out with Disharmonium and Nahab, I think 23 was Nahab, right? There was no album in 24, I believe. And 22 is Undreamable Abysses, right? We decided to make it an annual thing so that whenever there was a new BAN album, and I have dubbed the BANRG, the Blut Aus Nord Research Group. There you go, just to be fucking nerdy and weird. We are they are us, we are they. And so anytime there's a new album, we're doing this. And the new album came out. And yeah, did you guys get copies, Jimmy? I think you got the special edition CD, right?
Yeah.
Right on. Kellen, how about you? You were waiting, right?
I mute myself there. Yeah, I mean, I just got the CD copy.
Standard CD, okay.
Yeah.
Well, your boy, he likes to do it up and spend money he doesn't own, so he kind of went crazy and went for the full Monty here, which, let me turn my brights up here. And I got the limited edition, I don't know, everything but the kitchen sink. It doesn't show up real well here, but this is all embossing of the name and the sigil. I wish I had a better light on that, but I don't. And then the back is this killer freaking spot gloss, awesome image of the ethereal, the front basically. And of course we got the gatefold, and it's pretty fucking epic. I guess that's the back of the actual the spot gloss deal. And we'll show this off real quick and then move on and get into the meat of this thing. I guess we just lost Peter. That's a shame. There's the sigil right there. And then it comes with this killer booklet, which I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really look at the lyrics at all. I'm not the biggest lyric guy anymore. My ADD makes that tough. But you can see each psalm then has these beautiful illustrations here that are, you know, kind of, I guess, evocative of the song lyrics, which we'll get into a little bit. But yeah, killer package. And then finally, the vinyl is this beast. This was 300 copies, limited to. I got one of the last 3. I kept waffling back and forth. Do I want to buy this? Do I really want to spend that much money? Because I think it was $49.99 plus shipping, and ended up being $62. Yeah. And yeah, Peter's back, but he says he's disconnected. What is he doing, man? You need to connect the mic cam. All right, I'll get him. I'll talk to him in a minute here. So this is the kind of the killer variant, and then on side D we've got this amazing, I guess you'd call it a, you know, a picture disc thing, but what's cool about it is it's not, you can't play it, you can't put this on and spin the needle on it. There's no grooves. It's just a laminated you know, front cover, and it looks killer, man. Looks absolutely killer. Can someone in the private chat, or actually Jimmy, can you get on the phone, the Instagram, the common thread we had? Just mute yourself and tell him he needs to reconnect his device. He needs to reconnect the audio because it's not connected. So I don't know what's going on, man.
Okay.
We had a great stream with Moon Sorrow, and now tonight's a clusterfuck. So yeah, so there we go. That's the physical there. I'm gonna pick up the CD because I want to copy this for the car, of course. And the studio has blocked my camera and audio. I don't have it blocked. Tell him to try to come back in now. I'm not blocking him. I don't know what's going on. This is ugh. All right, anyway, we got to move on. So just real quick before we get into this, I wanted to mention on January 3rd, top 25 of 25 stream starts at 8 p.m. Also, I got a church deep dive part 2 coming up this Saturday at 8 p.m. and also a collection update and a 3 of an imperfect pair we're going to try and slide in there for the rest of the year. All right, guys, so a couple questions on this album. How, if at all, does this new Blut Aus Nord album relate to, draw inspiration from, expand upon any previous works, or is it a unique work devoid of any reference to the past, only the present? If this is this album overhyped at all? Is it the third highest ranked BAN release on Rate Your Music? You guys are familiar with Rate Your Music, right? The kind of catch-all database for people to go in and review stuff. So Rate Your Music has this third highest at a 3.71, behind Father of the Icy Age at number 2 for 3.77, and Dialogue with the Stars, Memoria of Vetusta 2 at 3.78. Is this an overly optimistic or accurate picture of this album in your personal assessment? We can get into the lyrical themes if you want. I didn't do a lot on that. You guys, I suspect, probably did a little bit more. Kellen, that's more your thing. Jimmy, you're more your thing. I'm the feels guy, as I said. And is this a continuation or extension of or to an existing series of albums, i.e. Hallucinations, from 2017? Am I correct on that? 2018?
I think 2019.
Oh, was it 2019? Okay. Didn't write that down. Bad research, Jeff. Memoria of Vetusta 2, 777 trilogy, or do you see Ethereal Horizons as the potential start of a new series, either sequential like 777 or Disharmonium, or spread out as we've seen with Memoria of Vetusta, where there was gaps and other experimentations? Because BAN is this sort of hybrid thing that is, he doesn't put out the same album every time. There's kind of maybe 3 different sorts of kinds of material that comes out from him. You've got the early epic Ultima Thule, Father of the Icy Age, where it's very epic Viking Bathory inspired sort of stuff. early enslaved, early emperor sort of stuff, and then we get into the more weird shit, like Odinist and Memory of the work that transforms God, where you get the melting guitars and the eerie, scary shit, right? And then maybe a third or fourth even is the more industrial stuff like desanctification and Deus Mias Saludos, that kind of stuff. So we're always kind of not exactly sure what we're gonna get. And as I said, Memoria Vetusta was spread out over many albums in a trilogy, whereas 777 was boom, boom, boom. So let's jump into it. Do we want to do a track by track rundown first, and then do tie it all up at the end, or how would you prefer to go?
I'd like to answer the question broadly, and then we can go track by track if you wanted to later.
Let's do it that way.
I'm gonna have people in the chat saying that I'm echoing. I'm gonna bounce and be right back.
I don't think it's you. It might be me. I don't understand this. Go ahead, jump out quick. We'll see.
Okay, well, something just stopped. Oh, never mind. It's me. All right, I'll be right back.
I'm just not getting this shit.
Yeah.
It's not my fan. I don't think it's.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it sounds fine to me, but like everybody that talks except for you, I can hear in my speaker, and it's weird. I've tried 3 different setups and it's the same.
Tell you what, you stay here. I'm gonna bounce. It might be my internet connection, so give me one moment.
Okay. Right? Okay. Anybody in the chat notices anything on mine as well, or does it seem? Let's see. Seems like now I don't know if you can hear me guys now, but it seems like it's fine now that it's just me. So maybe it's Jeff. I guess I'll just go ahead just to keep the stream going is to answer Jeff's question there. Is this overhyped or is this a masterpiece in terms of the rating on the album has come up? I don't know that I would really say that this is overhyped.
How about now?
Okay, here we go.
How about now?
I think the go ahead, Jeff. Pull yourself off the screen because Jimmy wasn't echoing before.
Oh shit! I know what it was. Echo cancellation was off. Motherfucker!
There we go.
Change when you have the echo cancellation on. It doesn't translate to the next stream. That's a fuck up on their end because this happened before. My bad. This was all my fault.
I think we're good now.
All good. Yeah, we're fine.
Back in. Peter, try to get back in, Peter. I don't know where you're at, but try to come on.
Okay, we interrupted you, Jimmy, though. You're talking about the masterpiece conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of answer his question there. So, the idea is this record overhyped or is it, a masterpiece? And I guess from my perspective, I didn't really notice that this album was overhyped. I mean, maybe it was, and I just wasn't looking at the right places. From what I saw, it was just like, oh, it's another Blut Aus Nord record. Great, we're excited. We can't wait. I mean, maybe there's always an overhype with a new record. I'm not sure. I think once the singles were released, it was kind of clear what direction that this album was going to be in. Which is not unlike anything that he's done before, just maybe like kind of an expansive, to me, it's kind of more of an extension of maybe Dialogue on the Stars. But would I call it a masterpiece at the same time? I would certainly call it masterful.
Great word.
But, I don't want to use the word masterpiece because I'm always in danger of calling records that I really love masterpieces and always just giving it a 10 out of 10 without, because
10 out of 10.
Yeah, I've been guilty of that in the past, so I'm trying to steer away from that. But it seemingly is rating very highly. I find many more recent Blut Aus Nord records to rate pretty highly, no matter what the style that he's going for. So I think it really kind of just boils down to that this is a very beloved band that has a sort of, I don't want to say a divisive fan base, but everybody kind of has what they like the most about this project. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it so cool because it kind of has a little bit of something for everybody. and everybody does have their own like niche of the Blut Aus Nord sound that they like the most, you know. And I think that this record probably represents a larger contingent because it's a bit more accessible and listenable compared to a lot of his other stylistic, you know, approaches to, you know, the more nightmarish version of what he's been doing recently with, you know, the Disharmonium series. So I think that that probably factors into why a lot of people are kind of jumping on it, because there probably is maybe there is a larger contingent of people that prefer the more accessible side of this band. So
yeah. So real quick to kind of touch on what I was getting about the overhyped thing. If you pull up Ethereal Horizons reviews, I've got Coil of Hell, Angry Metal Guy, Metal Archives, obviously Nick Thralls. You got Robert over on Metal Meltdown. You've got Banger TV. You got Metal Trenches. You got pretty much everything is overwhelmingly positive. And again, I tend to really look at rate your music because it's just the regular people out there kind of jumping on, and the fanboys, if you will, and they're throwing their 2 cents in, and there's very little negative press on this thing. Okay. I agree with you though, Jimmy. It's possibly his most accessible work. Possibly. And to me, yes, I hear Dialogue. I hear Dialogue of the Stars. I definitely hear Hallucinations, and I absolutely hear Cosmosophy in here. So there's a trifecta of some of his earlier influences that kind of always inform, you know, Vin's or the band, you know, if we want to believe there is a full band. I always throw that out there because I just don't know, but he claims there is, so there is, I guess. But they're an always ever slightly evolving machine that always has certain callbacks. You hear things that are, oh, there's the BAN moment from there. There's the BAN moment from there. But this one really adds something very different to the mix, I think. I hear a lot more traditional metal guitar in this thing than I ever have heard before. There's a lot of, and I'll point it out when I get into track by tracks, the riffs that I hear are not the typical tremolo. They're straight up traditional arena rock sort of stuff. That's kind of new. Even Hallucinations was a lot more black metal-y and a lot more tremolo and a lot more frenetic. This one has real cool down moments where you have the down at the last track in particular, where you get in the hey, you can almost hear that. Like if you put yourself in that headspace. That's a new thing for Vinzval, man. And I love it. I'm here for it. You know what I mean? But Kellen, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this band's been around long enough to where they're going to get a lot of, at least what I think what in our circle we would consider sort of mainstream press and exposure. Like those channels that you're mentioning are large, and like some of them, like we are considered, you know, friends running our circles, but their audience is pretty big. And so it's understanding why they would cover a band like Blut Aus Nord, which after 30 some years, I think is going to get like decibel level press, right? Yeah. I think I also would agree with the, you know, coming from the Disharmonium series. And I get constantly amazed there are new fans who are getting involved with the band that I think collectively here, you know, my first experience with them was back in 2003, 2004 on the Work Which Transforms God. That was my entrance to the band. Once they signed to Candlelight and kind of got exposure to the States for the most part, that's what they came across my radar. But I think Hallucinogen brought a whole new series of fans into the band. Good to see you, Peter.
Hold on. Peter, you got to kill the audio. You got to kill the stream that you were watching. Peter.
But Hallucinogen brought a whole new
Peter.
We're working.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You have to kill the live stream you have on. There we go.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. We did it. We did it.
Can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear.
Fucking A. Fucking A.
All right.
Somehow,
Anyway,
I turned off all permission to my camera
did.
on my laptop.
Don't touch anything. Just stop. Don't touch a thing right now. Don't move, okay? You'll be the last one I come to. Kellen, sorry.
Yeah, so I think there are just a whole lot of new fans who are potentially getting exposure to this band. And to your point, Jeff, this is a relatively accessible record. When we get to the influences, I kind of agree, and there'll be some points of disagreement here. I had a little bit of an issue in terms of like aligning this album with my favorite moments in the band's catalog. I very much agree that, like I said, Hallucinogen is a major source here, just because of its sort of ease of entry and atmospheric qualities.
Yep.
I think I'd agree with the cosmosophy reference because it does have a little bit of this sort of longing prog. The sung vocals, I think, are also a major feature on this record.
The melodic vocals, yeah.
I mean, outside of that, it really does not venture into what Nahab promised, or the Disharmonium series promised, which was this sort of horror metal that was incredibly challenging to get through. And
but let me interrupt real quick. Hold that thought, because there's one thing that keeps that around that trilogy. There is that Lovecraftian thing that I don't know what it is. I never saw an actual physical. I think it's only a digital. Am I wrong about that, Peter? You probably know. I've not seen any physical of that. And I'm wondering if that was part 3, because that came in between. And nobody seems to know much about it, because he didn't actually call it Blut Aus Nord. He called it Lovecraftian Chronicles, I think, or something like that. So that's a weird little outlier that made me.
Yeah. But, I think, Peter had this kind of transitions into a conversation surrounding trilogies in the band.
Yeah.
Because I think we would all agree at some point, he seems to Vinzval writes in these sort of concentrated time periods of focus.
Yes.
And sort of exhausts an idea before sort of completely cutting the cord and doing something in some way that is dramatically different.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's these sort of long sort of progression where it develops a singular line of thought. He's sort of playing with themes. The through line primarily is like, I think, a lot of his guitar playing. That's usually what I will hear. Is it a signature of the band, and it operates as much in his industrial stuff as it is his atmospheric stuff. But I don't necessarily always think that like his records, like Odinist, I don't hear, or Mort, for example. There's that time period in the 2000s where he's not really writing in trilogies.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Saturnarian, the Memoria Vetusta trilogy story is a bit more complicated than the 777 series. It operates in sort of 2 different decades and 3 different decades within the catalog, and I don't think was always intended to be so. We may have talked about that when we covered, the more exhaustive catalog.
I think we did, yeah. Because that Saturnian almost came along like, oh, he's back to that, and it was linear, but not as linear, I think, as the first 2. The first 2 were pretty linear, and then you came to Saturnian, and it sort of felt, because Saturnian came after 777, where he had gone through that whole trio of concentrated themes, like you said. So yeah, it's kind of weird. You're right, though. I think the one point you made here that really stuck out to me is that this album feels a little less adventurous in many ways than a lot of his earlier stuff, in that this is more of a straight ahead rock and roll album, I guess, weirdly, right? And
I think in the promo material, when I first saw the album posted through Debemur Morti and on their Bandcamp page, that was explicitly stated, that it was going to be a bit more memorable and approachable. So I guess I want to pass it off to Peter and let him talk a little about his thoughts. But those are my initial impressions, and then reference to the back catalog and how it kind of plays a role within this release.
Great stuff. Yep. Peter, what you got?
Yeah, so well, I only listened to this for the first time during the week, so I was waiting for my physical to arrive, the CD. So probably listened to it maybe about 4 or 5 times in full. First time I actually fell asleep to it, and that was no reflection on the album. That was probably more of me after work. But
still recovering from Moon Sorrow, aren't we?
Oh yeah, from that late night. Yeah. So I think it's. I think I heard you mention it was more accessible, definitely more conventional. I'm struggling to place it at all. I don't know if it is a trilogy. I mean, I know when we did the deep dive before, we talked about how Memoria Vetusta, the first one, he did mention in the booklet there would be a sequel, and I think he picks the right time to follow on a story. So I don't know if this is a follow-on to any previous, maybe potential standalone album, or is this the first chapter? But I think the more I've dived into I wouldn't even call them lyrics, but the words he has in the booklets and the quotes he's putting in there, I think this album potentially could be a standalone one.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. It wouldn't shock me if it is. Yeah.
Definitely a relief after Disharmonium. I would say that. I kind of welcomed that it wasn't going to torture me.
Yeah. Well, that is a good way of looking at it, because when we were having issues with you and you bounced out, I talked about the fact that there's 3 or 4 or 5 different bands that kind of come up at any given point with BAN. You have the Disharmonium dank Cthulhian mythos that's just evil and just oppressively suffocating, I think would be a good word for it. Very suffocating and almost like, man, I got to come up for air after that shit. I can't do that one too often in a row. You have the more uplifting, the Memoria Vetusta, which is kind of starts out kind of Viking-y and Bathory and kind of moves into more enslavediness. And then it kind of gets, really into the galloping black metal, the triumphant swords flaring stuff of Saturnian. And then you've got 777, which is kind of its own little animal unto itself. There's a lot of industrial in there, harkening back to Work That Transforms, Mystical Beast, that kind of stuff. And then Odinist and Mort is just, man, it's, those are Odinist and Mort were albums I could not fathom for a long time. And now Mort probably might be my second favorite album. So I had mentioned that, Peter, I don't know if you heard, but I would mention that on Rate Your Music, that's the kind of database for people to go in and, fanboys and everybody to kind of go in and rate. And it's rated, this new one is rated 3rd best out of the catalog of 16. This is 16 albums in. Right. We're on the 16th album. And not to mention all the freaking splits and the EPs and all that shit, which is, I got Odinist the other day and I got it for a killer price. I couldn't believe it because I was looking for it for a while and it was just like $30, $40, $50. I'm like, nah. And finally some dude popped it up for $10.95. I'm like, mine now. So that was the last one I needed other than this Cthulhian thing that I don't know what it is in the main catalog for CDs. I still need a couple albums, but I'm pretty close to closing out the albums as well. Mm-hmm. But I need all the EPs, like the Liber stuff and the Evangelist and all that stuff. But it's ranked 3rd at 371 behind Memoria Vetusta 2, which is number 1 at 378, and Fathers at 377. I'm not sure it necessarily belongs there. I would put Cosmosophy higher because that tends to be my favorite album of them. I'm not sure why. I don't know if I can explain it right now. Maybe because Cosmosophy and Desanctification were my entry points. So Kellen, you were actually in before I was. I didn't come in until then, and I found them in a used cutout bin. I was like, I've seen this name around. I'm going to grab this. This is probably 2006 or whenever that came out, 7, 9, whatever it was. Why don't we jump into the tracks, and we'll kind of tie it in with the themes that we talked about up there. And again, the reason I say this was pretty highly rated and maybe oversaturated is that it just seemed like when this came out, everybody was bouncing on it early and during, and I didn't pull all the YouTube things up, but there's more than that. But there's a lot of the major people. I didn't look up Decibel if they got into this, but I gotta believe they reviewed this. They have to have. Anybody get a Decibel with this in it? I don't buy Decibel regularly, so
I just assume a band like at this level is going to get, and it's so for us. I mean, I guess I'll speak for myself. It is just a realization that this band has been around that long,
30 plus years,
still remains relevant, and probably now successive generations have come to know them.
And the crazy part of that, Kellen, is they don't play live. That's the crazy part. Almost every band like this that's been around 30 plus years has been coaxed into going out and playing live. And I don't think they've ever played live that I'm aware of, or if they did, it's so long ago that,
I had someone jump into our Blut Aus Nord sort of discography who said that they saw them back in the earliest whatever. So whatever. I don't know if it's true or not, but it could
really
be. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Rick says they were number 25 on their top 25 decibel. Okay, there you go. So, yeah.
I tried to avoid any exposure to any reviews of it, but it was quite difficult even just to avoid the album being mentioned, especially in the heavy metal Discord.
Yeah.
Discord.
Right. Yeah, and every reference that you had there, Jeff, like I know all of them.
Of course. Metal Storm was one,
Yeah.
So, and look, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is definitely gonna be on my top 25. Probably gonna feature very highly. I believe Jimmy, you said it was number 2 for you when you did your hiker metal thing, right?
It was interchangeable with my number 1. So, I mean, as far as metal stuff, it was my favorite record.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna go number 1 with it. I still have 2 weeks to decide all that shit. I'm struggling mightily. I needed to focus on other shit, Moon Sorrow and Y&T. Now I'm into my list, and it's going to be torture. So, let's jump into it. So, track by tracks. The album starts out with Shadows Breathe first. I'll go first. Sort of a languid opening with gentle synths and ambient and atmospherics, and then it blasts into hyperspace. With this epic, triumphant melody, very, very, it literally sounds like Scottish Highland bagpipes. The guitar has this bell-like bagpipe thing of, it's just this massive sounding thing, blasting away into hyperspace. About 3:35 in, you get what I feel is a kind of a uniquely new thing for this album, because I'm hearing proggy Dream Theater-y guitars, which is not something, I know, oh my God, he just said Dream Theater. He said Dream Theater when he's talking about Blut Aus Nord. Like the upside down cross shit, right? But no, it's there. It's absolutely there. You can definitely hear the prog guitar thing. It gets into these tremolo moments of ascending and descending flurries of notes. Very different for Vinzvolt. That track has, if anything, though, it's probably the thing that kind of harkens back to Hallucinations, in that it's got that vibe, but it's very, I hate to use the word, it's very ethereal, and it's very astral sounding. It's very of otherness, cosmic sounding. And then, to my ears, I hear some traditional metal in this one with the chordal stuff that you don't typically hear with Vinzvolt before. And what you don't hear on this album at all, not even once, you don't hear the warbling, melting guitar at all. It's not here, not even a little bit, which you hear it all over Nahab. You hear it all over Work the Transforms. You hear it all, even in Cosmosophy, you hear it a little bit. And Kellen, you pointed out most succinctly the clean vocals, that choral type. It's, I don't know what he's saying. I'm not correlating it to the words at all. It just sounds ear candy-ish to me. So, Jimmy, your thoughts on that track?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty bombastic opening and kind of, I find sort of, I don't want to say typical, but sounds like Blut Aus Nord right off the bat. I feel like the song has sort of like 3 movements, and I really like the sort of like right off the bat, the variety and dynamics like to this track. You know, that opening riff is just so, to me, indicative of what I've always thought about Blut Aus Nord in the more you know, atmospheric black metal realm of stuff that he does, is that it really truly sounds to me like the music of the spheres. Like it sounds to me like what the musical equivalent of what's, you know, observing the cosmos is, or what music would come from like another world. You know, I always thought, you know, there's not been any shortage of bands that do this sort of cosmic thing, the cosmic or spacey kind of, whether it's black metal or death metal. But to me, they've always kind of represented that sound best. And what I've liked about it, I really like like I said, the sort of breakdown part where you referred to sort of Dream Theater. I think it's great. I think it kind of takes the track down a bit, and showcases a lot of the just awesome melodies that he writes.
Yeah.
And you know, combining that with the clean vocals, like there's kind of a Robert Smith sort of quality to his cleans. And I think, you know, the vocals have always been kind of like sort of I don't want to say an afterthought, but they've been, in my opinion, appropriately like kind of put back in the mix, especially when it comes to the black metal vocals, because it kind of lets the music stand out a bit. And so where the vocals is kind of just another part of the music.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, I mean, this is a great opening track, and it showcases a lot of different flavors that you're going to see coming up.
And Kellen hit it. The guitar melodies are interplaying with the synth melodies. They're the dominant forces for all these songs, and then we get the vocals kind of sweetening the pot here and there, and they're really another instrument. They're not really a focal point. Whereas in most dominant, even death metal, you know what, it's usually a dominant part of the mix. Here it's a sum of the parts. Kellen?
Yeah, I mean, this was the lead single. Came out, and I was, like we kind of talked about in the intro, pleasantly surprised to see a different tone for this record. I thought that the disharmonium stuff has kind of been wrung out. So, one, I will agree, because I think everyone here can at least state that Memoria Vetusta 2 Dialogue with the Stars is a masterpiece within the discography. I don't think there's going to be there's no disagreement here. We'd all agree there.
It's my favorite black metal record of all time, probably.
Okay. So because I watched your was catching up on your stream, Jimmy, and you referenced that, and the intro here is the first thing that took me back to that.
Yes.
There is something about his clean lead work, specifically when a more ambient, quiet section that took me back to some of the opening moments when I first heard Dial for the Stars. It is, in my mind, the first sort of opening clean moments of guitar work there. The synth lines that begin Dialogue with the Stars, that's the first thing I heard with the clean guitar work for this album. It was a similar sort of mood and space. So I was like intrigued where this went. Second thing, the drum sound on this album. I think it was something that was a bit more, I could probably tell you with confidence that the level of production quality has increased over the years.
Oh yeah.
Since moving to Debemur Morti. And we keep on speculating about the, band members. But I love the natural sort of drum sound to this.
I got to interject because I'm not 100% sure it's not a drum machine.
Okay, well,
it's so clinical and clean. I can't.
The same reaction I had to Saturnian Poetry versus Dialogue. Dialogue with the Stars is classic in my mind because it sounds like a drum machine. It doesn't sound like a drum machine that wants to be a drummer. So I enjoyed the drum sound of this album. Yeah, and it kind of echo Jimmy's point. There's a few tracks on this album I think are really stand out. This is one of them.
Yes.
It is the composition I think is actually well mapped out. You have that intro section, and then there's an actual kind of a verse chorus designation.
Yes.
The vocals and the sung vocals.
Which is very different for Blut Aus Nord.
Right. If you're worth swirling in this cosmic sort of Lovecraftian horror, that's like how you understand this band, it's going to be much more tangible to listen to.
Yeah.
And then to Jimmy's point, it kind of, there's a little bit of a bridge breakdown. It opens up to something a bit more atmospheric. So it's not a challenging song to listen to. I enjoyed the aggression in it that felt far more traditional in terms of its metal approach, or a black metal approach. I want to say there's that kind of blast beat sort of that takes off this song. It's one of the better tracks for me on this album. I'm glad it totally made sense being the lead opener. I'll let it go and pass it to Peter from here.
Peter.
Yeah, so I think the first time I listened to it through Staying Awake, it was definitely the one that was most memorable for me. It felt like, I think you mentioned that Jimmy, it was the one that had the most dynamics in it. And it sort of moved around more than the others. But it was moving in a way that I wasn't expecting it to go, because I think the rhythm section keeps it grounded, because you have that soaring melodic guitar lead part that's right through it at the start, and then it kind of reprises again at the end. But I felt the rhythm guitar was keeping it grounded. It was almost like it was trying to break free and soar off. But that was sort of keeping it grounded, and definitely I expected it. While that rhythm guitar was building up a bit of tension in the song, I expected it to speed up, but instead it went slower. So there was a few moments during that song it went somewhere where I didn't expect it to go, where I would have thought it would have went.
Yep.
But definitely it was the most memorable for me.
Not for me. I have one other track that definitely eclipses that one pretty easily. So track 2, Seclusion, dark and somber guitars, synthed out probing notes like tendrils of sonic menace into a more traditional sounding BAN song. This is probably the most throwback to the darker era, the more, maybe desanctification, maybe a little bit of the Disharmonium series. This is the dark evil child, if you will, of the whole song palette here. Like I said, something from Sext. I could almost see it coming from SECTS, Sext. You got sort of evil choirs rising deep in the mix. The synths are spacious in the choir-like mix. Approximately 3 minutes in, you start to get that. It's that dissonant sort of thing that he is more typical of his guitar work, I think you could say, right? Probably the only real dissonant moment on the album to my ears, and I've run through this thing at least a half dozen times or more in the last 2 days. You get this cool accented synth organ part that's kind of creepy about 3.5 minutes in. And again, probably the darkest and most creepy disharmonium type vibe than anything else on the album. This one brings the menace, yet it's not impenetrable like the last 2 albums. It's a lot more accessible in its dissonance and ugliness, right? 5 minutes in, you get these high howling vocalizations. I don't think they really say anything. They're just these, almost like these shouts or whatever. And we hear some evil tritone in here. The tritone, the dreaded, Sabbath notes, right? Down, down, down. It's in there at the end. Really menacing, evil track. The most evil track on the album for me, but pales in comparison to like Nahab or Disharmonium or Mort, for God's sake, or Deus Salutis, which is fucking pure sonic mayhem. That's the stuff of evil dreams. So we'll jump around here. Kellen, I'll start with you on this one.
So I guess what I found most notable on this track was that descent. You talk about, it starts with, I don't know if it primarily keys, like a synth line, and then it's doubled up with an organ. There's a weight that's added to that line. Yes. as it descends, there's like a midsection at around, I think I wrote it here in my notes in terms of the time frame, but it kind of gets like murky gothy.
It does. Yep.
It's a weird kind of like they kind of abandon, I think, at some point an appeal towards black metal or post black metal. It doesn't sound like that. It sounds far more rooted to me in something that is like 1980s. We've already had a vocal sort of reference to The Cure.
Yeah.
But that's not really what's happening vocally here as much as it is sort of like the kind of, instead of the dissonance or the challenging nature that Disharmonium sort of provided, I think this is just this murky sort of sadness that we kind of lay into during this time period. It's not challenging to listen to on its face in terms of like the kind of aggression that you're exposed to, like harmonically, but it is sort of the emotional sort of place that you are forced to live at for a time period during this track.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird, interesting sort of like turn that they take that does not feel like hallucinogen. That was far more sort of like shimmery and like riding along sort of the journey kind of deal.
Shimmery, great word.
This, to your point, kind of goes into a darker direction, but not in a way that is so been explicitly detailed by Blut Aus Nord in the past.
100%.
It's a different kind of like emotional register that they kind of ask you to live at during this song. That's the key part for me that I would say.
But it definitely is the dark track. It's the dark child on this album by far, I think. So, Peter, how about you?
Yeah, this on the vocals, like you mentioned The Cure for the first song. I did have down the vocals, the clean ones anyway, did sound quite agonized. And this one here, the song felt a wee bit sort of like introducing a bit of chaos, a bit of disorientation, really, where the drums sort of start. But it's about seclusion, and there's a lot of this, that deep, drony chanting throughout it. So it's like, for me, it came across like, it's this like self-reflection, like sort of meditation. And I think this is about looking into the inner struggles of an individual. And I think this whole album is all about self-reflection and trying to develop oneself. And it's like that struggle. And
I have a different take on that, but I see where you're coming from, but I have a slightly different take. We'll get that at the end.
Yeah, it felt like it just felt to me that this is definitely a very introspective. There's something going on with the person and how they see reality, and they're trying to work through that. And that's why I think it is probably a wee bit darker. So they're seeing some of the negatives, some of the struggles in their life before they can make improvements.
And that's the song that has the niche quote that accompanies it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah,
I think so. You'd have to pull out your. I'm not pulling my album out. Jimmy, how about you? Well, go ahead, Kellen. When you come back to that.
Yeah, the issue with the insert is like the type is so small.
Yeah. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. It's from the Spokes of Rosastra from
Okay.
But when you mentioned chaos, I was like, that rings a bell here. I think he's talking about the Niche quote. Anyway, go ahead, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I mean, I think the entire record really kind of revolves around that sort of existential, I don't want to say crisis, but like kind of finding meaning like with your own place in the universe. And like this track, I think Kellen put it really well in his description, and that it is like the most over, there's a huge feeling of dread to this track, and it does harken back really probably the most I don't want to say like nightmarish, but definitely has some of the more jarring kind of rippage, and it's interesting too because it's another song that has a lot of peaks and valleys. I think it's one of my favorite tracks on the record as well, because it does kind of like go different places in terms of like the bit of psychedelia that they have sort of in the middle, even though it's not like the psychedelia of hallucinogen. But this was the one that's like got my head banging the most, especially like toward the end where they go into that blast beat and it really just crazy dissonant riff, and it just goes really hard.
That's
and then
the
it
tritone, yeah. The tritone.
Yeah, and then it just culminates in that really big moment, like it's kind of like a star exploding, that last riff. It kind of brings like the first riffs back together. It really kind of culminates into that last section.
If I remember correctly, when this came out and you first heard, when I sent you the stream of the whole album when it popped, this was the song that you were like, man, that's
yeah. I mean, this was definitely. I mean, I love pretty much every song on this record, but this one really like stood out in that sense because I just felt that it just has a real honesty to that feeling of where it builds to, like toward the end of it. But it's very well constructed and yeah, I love this one.
Okay, the Ordeal, third track here. Astral and projecting into the outer realms, earth building, chorusy vocals, more in line with Shadows, the first song. The build of the synths and the guitars mesh in lockstep in a universal uplifting set of very traditional metal chords, which are pretty atypical of Vince Vaughn. The guitar melodies are droning and hypnotic and ascendant. This one is fire. Pure solar flares exploding and colliding in the gaseous outer realms of the sun. Hypnotic melodies reign supreme on this one. And again, those traditional melodies and guitars are a pretty new thing on this that I just never really heard of. This is kind of a magic dust song. This, I believe, was the second track that was released. And it's huge sounding. It's massive. It's world building. It's epic. EPOCH, not just EPIC, but it's like an epic. You know what I mean? So, Peter, why don't you jump in on that one?
Yeah, this one didn't hang about. This went straight into the riffs. I love how the vocals in this contort around. Really was kind of like tortured. Like almost shape shifting in a way, the vocals, mixed with it, a bit of a mammoth riff. And this is where this song kind of, from what I know of bands like ISIS, sort of around the early 2000s stuff, this started reminding me of some of that dark post metal kind of feeling that started to creep in while I was listening through this again. Though the chanting goes back to that ceremonial, sort of celestial type choral chanting that seeks into this really soaring melody. This is where I keep thinking the melodies are trying to be like almost celestial, but there's this bass, this rhythm bass that's keeping it grounded. That's why I think there's a sort of an inner turmoil in these songs. That's how I was hearing it.
It's interesting. I did not read these lyrics until just now. Swear to God, I just didn't read them. And mine they're difficult to read, but they're readable as opposed to probably your versions. And this one for the Ordeal is at the heart of fire, transformation. Pain illuminates, pain guides, and the heart beats differently. The flame shapes without hatred, a new awareness, thematic with the divine, or intimate with the divine. Refuge, ordeal, initiation, the formless being refines in the furnace, incandescence as the cradle of rebirth. The quote here is from Albert Camus. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. It's crazy that my little rundown mentions fire, solar flares exploding and colliding in the gaseous ether. I didn't read them. I swear to God, I did not read those lyrics until just now. And I'm like, whoa, that's bizarre. How did I? So the music is telling me the visual things that I'm hearing, the feels, as I said in our group text, which is bizarre to me. That's tripping my brain out. I'm a little bit too empathic to what's going on here, I guess. And the comment is, in the midst of an eternal winter, I feel an invincible summer, paraphrasing. There's the yin and the yang on this album. And the last quote is really telling. Which I'll read these as we go through it. They're not, none of them are really long. So
They're really interesting. It's almost like this is like Finn's file sitting down and having a focus on mindfulness.
well, yeah, and you know, for me, this album has this. It's essentially, I think, a universal search for truth. Like, what are we doing here? What is this thing that we're doing? What is this dance of life? Like, what are we always have eternal questions? Is there heaven? Is there hell? Is there God? Is there not? I think that's kind of entwined in the musical themes here, and because a lot of these are extremely heavenly, they're extremely just that feeling, right? That looking up at the vast cosmos and going, what is all this? Like, how did this happen? And as an atheist personally, and I'm not putting anybody's, this is just me, you know, an album like this with the big questions makes me wonder. Does it make me wonder enough to be an agnostic? I don't think, but it still is that universal. This has this universal questioning feeling in the fabric of the music, is what I'm trying to say. So, Kellen, your turn.
Yeah, I'll just stick with the themes here. The track is, I think, a good representation of what this album has to offer as a whole, right? Meaning, if you're brand new to this band and you hear this particular track, I think it's going to do the best job encapsulating what Ethereal Horizons is, rather than describing their previous discography. So I just don't want to say with the themes though, because this reminds me, I would link it more with Hallucinogen, purely because it feels like it is a story of personal transformation cast in a cosmic lens. When we were doing the deep dive on the discography, and Peter kind of pointed out how he had noticed within Dialogue with the Stars, it was essentially Buddhist prayer.
That's right.
That was the reference that he was making. It was interesting because initially hearing that record in 2009, it was easy to kind of group it in with sort of symphonic black metal or atmospheric black metal and stuff like that. And I always thought like that insight that Peter had to it was a great way to distinguish what Vince Vaughn was sort of digging at, and separating it prior to like lumping in with the rest of symphonic black metal or something like that. Like he was very much rooted in, yes, that series, that trilogy is a traditional black metal trilogy in my mind from all that he has to offer. But including the themes there, I think was a good way to distinguish himself within sort of that sort of larger canon. When we get here to Ethereal Horizons, I think this is him going back. I mean, I first saw Hallucinogen and all the mushrooms with the eyes and everything and space. Yeah. And it was like, there are stories for me, and the personal stories of transformation. So essentially struggle and of evolving. But if you look at for like the video content for this, it is like glimpses into what seem like parts of ancient history that have sort of fallen and then are sort of melting away or being destroyed only to be reborn. And I very much feel like that is the central theme here that we get as a undercurrent carried from Hallucinogen. It doesn't sound like it, but I do think the lyrical and thematic content is, to Jimmy's point about like this kind of feels, you know, like a bit of an album that you would struggle with, or Peter talking about sort of mindfulness and introspection. Like, I think the end result here isn't necessarily conflict in the way that he'd previously explored, like really hostile environments, depression necessarily, but I do think it is a transformative process that he's trying to go through.
Yes.
So I just wanted to stay with that as sort of a theme for this record that I start to feel has more currency when you look at something like their previous catalog, that it may be a better representation towards.
Jimmy, how about you on this, on The Ordeal?
Yeah, to that, on what Kellen was talking about, you know, like I think that's right about this record, and like as always, like if I refer to Dialogue, for example, as being my favorite, because like I connected with that record so hard, like being out in the backcountry, like in wilderness and listening to it, and like, you know, observing a really awesome like starry nights, like where there's no natural light, and that's kind of what that record represented to me, is sort of like, you know, observing it as we are, observing, you know, the universe as a human. Whereas this record, it's kind of like a sort of, you know, transcending that in terms of like a spirituality, you know, because like one of the last quotes on the record, it says something like, you know, we experience the universe not as human beings spiritually, but as spiritual beings as humans. I forgot exactly what it is.
Yeah, it says we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Right.
That is Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Very.
Yeah, it's got a few quotes in here, and I think that really kind of nails what this record is about, and like how you can sort of connect with it in the way that he's, you know, you were talking about like you didn't even really expect what the lyrics would say. I think that's because the music really does speak for itself, you know,
1,000,000%.
in a way that you don't really need to like analyze the lyrics really hard to really understand what it's doing, and then you kind of just take that sentiment and make it for yourself what you want it to, or what it just reveals to you as, you know. And to me, like, I love that about this record, because it makes me happy about getting older, or like looking towards the future, or like what is the meaning of life. None of these things, like, I don't think humans are really meant to really understand or really completely figure out the answer to. It just is in a way, and that's kind of what this is.
You can't. You really can't. It's beyond our. For as amazingly complex as the human brain is, that's the one question, the one thing you'll never figure out.
And that's okay, you know. Yeah, and that's okay, because like there's that saying, you know, we're made of star stuff. I forgot what astronomer said that. It's true, you know, that it's a way that you can just sort of just feel part of that. But in terms of the third track, I don't want to. Sorry to get off on a tangent, but this was the song that like kind of took me the longest to sort of, like, when I first heard this record, it took about 3 or 4 listens before it really clicked. Like, I liked it immediately, but you know, at first I felt like it was just sort of an extension of Dialogue with the Stars, which it is, but it took a few listens for it to really like kind of, and this was like the one track I liked it, but like it took a few listens to really kind of like learn to get to appreciate it, because the vocals were a little goofy for me for a second, because it kind of like went from like a Robert Smith thing to all of a sudden I'm hearing Kermit the Frog, and I wasn't really sure like if that was like gonna completely ruin the song for me, but it eventually kind of like it stuck, and it sort of turned into this more like kind of monkish like vocal chants that actually really works really well for like what he's got. And you know, he's kind of done that before in previous stuff, like, and that kind of brought to mind the cosmosophy sort of thing. But
meditative.
Yeah, this is definitely the more meditative track, and it's a very accessible song. You know, I like how it builds and where it kind of goes. But yeah, this was the one that took a little bit for me to really kind of like, even though it is like easy to listen to, it took me a while to like really love it. You know?
Can we keep you about 20 minutes to get through the album quick?
Yeah, I've got a little bit longer. Mm-hmm.
We'll try and move a little bit here. All right, so The Fall Opens the Sky. This is my song, man. This song is just fucking mind-blowing, dude. This is possibly a top 3 or 5 BAN song for me, man. It just opens, oh my God, leaps and bounds. Those tremolo pick, the blast, it's so heavenly. And it's basically this guy opening up. The song title really nails this one. The choirs and synth pads are so eternal. They paint tapestries of celestial grandeur untold. This is an ultra mega banger. You know how I like to go there. Indescribable beauty on this one. The melodies almost too beautiful to accurately put into words for me. The buried choir-like vocals that are in there, they're just majestic strokes. They're not even meant to really be understood. I'll read the lyrics quick. Since I've got them more accessible than you guys do. But around 3.5 minutes, it breaks down into a fragile, arpeggiated series of notes that softly caress with synth textures, symbolizing to me the breath of life. You're breathing. It's giving you a moment to breathe in the vastness, the grandeur of whether it's life, the sky, earth, whatever, all these elements together. It's you're breathing all this in. You're decompressing for a moment because it was so epic. It was so intense, the opening 3.5 minutes. You're now given a chance to kind of breathe. But then it explodes again around 5 minutes, signals a rebirth as it fires off into the skies, burning brighter than a million suns and ending in a blazing cataclysm. Extreme cosmosophy and dialogue with the sound. I'm sorry, extreme cosmosophy mixed with dialogue with the stars track right here all day. It's just all interwoven. Real quick on the lyrics on that one. That one has the quote is from Rumi, R-U-M-I. The wound is the place where the light enters you. A rift in the sky, the fracture opens as reality slowly tears apart. What once seemed darkness becomes light. The juxtaposition thing that's throughout these lyrical themes. The world loses itself in its own reflection. In silence, the call urges crossing this void that triumphs over fear, ascension, to rise like falling into the essential, surrender, liberation, to be no more. Pretty heady stuff that, frankly, I'd need to be as smart as Kellen to understand, and I'm not, so I'm not even going to pretend. But with that in mind, Kellen, why don't you tackle this track?
Okay, this is the second track that I absolutely fell in love with.
Okay.
Specifically, the beginning of this.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted from this record. That's what I like from this band. Just the climb that the beginning of this track starts with, and then when the choirs come in, it's over. But what's disappointing is the back end of this track for me, though. It becomes a yes. So this is this is a difference between you and myself and how we relate to cosmosophy.
Okay.
So for me, I like the dialogue story that at the beginning of this. It feels the first moment on this, I would say, on this album. As much as I love the first track, this one the beginning feels like that heroic side of Blut Aus Nord that they just tapped just enough into to reference great sort of, anything heritage Bathory, right? Like that part of the black metal sort of story that they tapped into just enough that feels familiar to me, and then put their individual slant on it. I hear that in the beginning portion of this song. And man, I miss them doing this. I think they've kind of abandoned this out of the wheelhouse because too many people are doing it. But
that's probably it. Yeah.
But to get a glimpse of what they can do within this, man, it's so heroic. Everything that you mentioned, I don't have all the superlatives at hand to throw there like you did. But yeah, like I love the additional, they don't abandon that moment too quickly. The first handful of minutes on this track, and you throw the choirs inside of it, it just feels like it continues to ascend. So I love it. The back end of this song, though, is what I think makes Ethereal Horizons what it is. It is based on an exploration of that kind of space of openness, being able to navigate through something that is not necessarily well formed. I think a lot of that is what defines this record.
Well, you could say, we're talking about these light, dark.
I get it. It makes sense. It makes sense. It's contrast. It's dynamic contrast.
Yin and yangs, and you've got
I get it.
This ascendancy and the introspection.
Then do it on the next song, because you're killing me on this one. Is what I'm trying to say. Like I just wish.
You hear that, Vince Vaughn? Kellen is not amused by that.
But I think it is a hallmark of this record, though. So that person, I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to dialogue, right? When I want that. I think they abandon that. They shift gears because he wants to explore something new. Yeah. we're all fans of the discography to a certain extent. We can respect that, and I understand where they're doing at this point in time. So I love the first half of it, probably my favorite moment on the entire record. But the back half just always leaves me a little bit wanting more.
Jimmy, how about you?
Yeah, I agreed. I mean, this is the banger of the record, aside from the first track. It's interesting because I think it is, in light of the way that you guys both interpreted it, is kind of representative of the different types of fans of this music. You know what I mean? Like, because you could easily look at this like when you get to the halfway point of the song, and it just kind of like loses the momentum, maybe. Even though like. Because it kind of does. I mean, like it's such a strong statement through the first 2 or 3 minutes, and then it goes to that breakdown part. And I think this is like a similar, quality of what some people might not like about a band like Opeth, for example. Like older Opeth, like where
great point.
You come out banging hard, like with a big monstrous, death metal track, and then 3 minutes in, all of a sudden they take it down to an acoustic part. And I think Alan put this the best when I hear him talking about Opeth, because he's not really into them. And it totally made sense to me as an Opeth fan. Like, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense on why you don't like it, because he was like sitting watching them live, and people were moshing to whatever song, and then all of a sudden they broke it down to the acoustic part, and then it's like the guys that were moshing just kind of looked at each other and were kind of like, oh, whoops, I'm sorry, and they're just kind of standing there not knowing what to do. And then the heavy part kicks back in, and that can be kind of jarring, like it kind of like can take you out of it in a way. And I totally get that. And there are people that are going to really like that sort of juxtaposition between the two different moods, which I do as well. I like that, but there are people that are not going to like that. I think that's what's interesting about this track, is because it's going to do that. It's going to be divisive in that way. That, do you like it if they take you out of it to this completely more introspective part, and then they kind of build it up again, and I think that the break is really great. I like those melodies. I like where kind of it goes. I do see Kellen's point that they could have maybe maybe he could have like changed that up a bit and put that break could have almost been like a part of another song, and it could have been.
Yeah, I see it, but again, I see it more as a breathing moment, because the first 3.5 minutes is so full on. Fucking, I'll go back to one of my favorite analogies or favorite superlatives, as Kellen says. It's like that opening 3.5 minutes is like me standing on the back of a fire-breathing dragon, completely naked, fucking fire shooting out of this dragon's mouth. I'm double fisting with giant broadswords going. It's just that fucking vibe, right? And then I need a few minutes to, maybe throw my loincloth on or something.
I was going to say, where's the lycra going?
Where's the barf bag, did you say? Is that what you just said? No. All right, Peter, you can go for it. Try and follow that shit up.
I know, yeah. This is probably the most black metal song for me. You mentioned about the choirs and stuff. This felt like it was had a divine atmosphere. But if we go back to themes and stuff, when I was listening to this song and sort of reading about the theme, the words in the booklet, whether the lyrics or not, this took me back to sects, where I think I discussed the stream how I thought this was people abandoning or getting past like religious beliefs and then having the vast universe of possibilities, which was probably frightening to people, that we don't really know, we don't have a concrete belief anything is possible. Where the song is called "The Fall Opens the Sky," that you get sort of similarities to maybe the fall of Lucifer, and that you could see through the religion, and that you think for yourself, you're an individual, and that sort of ties into the black metal themes for me, because that's what it's all supposed to be about, is that I'm not constricted by any beliefs. I'm the master of my own destiny, really. And that's the vibe I kept getting from this, and that sort of tied into why I probably put a bit more black metal into the introduction of this song.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's, this you brought up a point there. You said this is probably the most black metal song. I'm going to make a bold statement here. I don't hear a massive amount of black metal on here in the traditional sense. in the traditional sense. I hear it in bits and pieces, but I really hear a lot more epic, progressive. You hate that word, but progressive metal in that it's a little more streamlined and straightforward than the typical black metal thing. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you come to this band looking for orthodox black metal,
This ain't it.
most of the time you're going to be disappointed. Yeah.
Yep. All right, we'll move on to what burns now listens. After the light, silence reigns. Again, these yin and yangs. Absence becomes presence. Thought dissolves into mist. Silence, wordless. What remains after the fall? No voice, no sound, only peace. Each second builds a world, and silence heals what fire once wounded. The mind ceases to resist. The stillness where all may finally be born becomes truth. And again, another Rumi quote, whoever that is: "Silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation." Pretty interesting. I'm guessing that's like some Buddhist thing. Does anybody know?
He's
Rumi?
a mystic. He's
Mystic.
a Sufi mystic.
There you go. Sufi mystic. Yeah, that totally tracks, right?
It makes sense, right?
Yeah. This one here, again, bell-like bagpipe sounds from the guitar on this one, more like in line with the first track, Shadows. Similar, some melodies that are similar to Shadows. Midway into the song, there comes another sort of uniquely unusual moment. I hear a crazy ass amount of nothing face voivod in that middle section. The chordal structure and the tritones that he's playing, the little not the tritones, the triads, the little angular dissonant triads with the chords sound right like they're literally dun 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 dun. It's right out of Nothing Face, which is, I've never heard that before on a Vinzval or Blut Aus Nord album. I see shaking your head, Kel, because I know there's been a big attempt to drag.
I'm trying, man. It is. I've been reintroduced to that friend at a party 20 times, and we're still trying to get each other on a.
But this album, I swear I heard you talking about Nothing Face not long ago, right?
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
yeah. I'm trying to get there. So I'm not as adept at sort of going through, and I'm not a guitar player like yourself, so I can't identifying those sort of things. But that totally makes sense.
Do you hear that moment in there?
I don't know it well enough to speak to that with confidence.
Go listen to that song after we're done. Listen to just the middle section. You'll be like, and check out Nothing Face. You'll be like, whoa, dude, that's fucking crazy. I do have that weird ear for melodies that just things that are ingrained in my brain from years and years of listening to them.
I don't know if you can see.
I hear that. Voivod. There you go, dude. Yep. So. All right, so go ahead, Peter. Since you agreed, I'm going with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about some songs that are world building. This just sort of starts off that the words sounds like it's already created, but just to get that moment, there's a little tremolo melody that bridges into that kind of voivod bit, and that was a real highlight of that song for me. But the first time I did listen to it when I fell asleep, this is the moment I woke up at, and I thought it moved on to voivod.
Yeah.
But when I listened to it again, and each time since, I'm kind of shifting to this moment reminds me of the breakdown to Enslaves the Dead Stir when the riff kicks in.
I'm going to talk about
carries the song right to the end.
Yeah, you're right. You're actually right.
This is I don't know if they were listening to mid-era Enslaved, and Blow the Lights, but it felt like very similar to me. And then it sort of enters almost like operatic vocals come through.
Yeah, yes.
Again, another highlight of this song.
Almost sounds like female vocals, almost. Not quite, but close, but you're right, operatic. Again, very deeply in the mix versus overtly in your face, right?
Well, for Blut Aus Nord album, I thought the vocals are very much present throughout. It was only one instrumental here, the ambient piece, but for him, I don't recall it being so extensive in previous albums. Like it was always sort of maybe in the background or floating around. But this seemed to be quite present in each song.
I still feel like they're not, it's not Run to the Hills.
Oh no, they're not at the forefront.
It's not, I'm gonna keep on loving you. It's not the feature. It's the. Could you imagine? Could you imagine Vinval doing, "I'm gonna keep on loving you"? 'Cause it's the best thing I can do. But that would be a trippy thing. I want to see Vince Vaughn do a covers album of REO Speedwagon songs. Time for Me to Fly. There you go. Jimmy, how about you?
Yeah, I think this one works really well as a instrumental. Right? There's no vocals on this track that I can remember.
Oh no, that's Twin Sons. We're still on What Burns Now.
Oh. Yeah, but no, I know. But are there vocals on this track? I don't remember there being vocals on this one. I felt like this one was a.
No, there's choir-like. There's some choir-like stuff in there.
There's just like choir stuff, yeah. But there's not like okay. To me, this track, though, I do feel like this album does share a lot of similarities with Dialogue with the Stars. This is the one track that sounds like it could have been a track off of that record. It just kind of has like a lot of the similar qualities in terms of the bending of the notes and just like the pacing of it too, like that sort of moderate, kind of more rockish kind of beat to it. But it just feels like it's definitely a homage to that record in a lot of ways. Yeah, not too much to say about it, but I like it a lot. I think it's perfectly well and fine within the confines of this record.
Kellen?
Yeah, it's that sort of trading guitar part that happens in the middle of this. That bump to bump to bump to bump to bump, like that sort of guitar riff that happens in the middle of this song. Like where did this come from? Because it goes into those sort of larger sort of chord pieces. That always is the key characteristic for this track.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
And I was like, man, this is a little bit different. Overall, I don't mind it. It doesn't like offend me or whatever. It just it's an interesting. Yeah, it definitely is like the signature thing, like hallmark that will set it apart from the rest of the tracks here.
Yep, 100%. One other moment on the last track is like that too. I'll talk about.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to sort of like make an inclusion here that I am not used to. To your point about not doing a lot of like traditional black metal stuff, like that is 100% from a different world. So it's an interesting inclusion here. I don't, I have no like great song, bad song kind of reaction to it, much as like something to look for in terms of a unique feature through this album.
Yeah, there's no bad songs on this album. I mean, it's just, that's kind of, but I guess Twin Sons, the intro ambient thing, I just wrote dark brooding ambience, the double eclipse, the shadowing of man's eternal quest for the meaning of it all unanswered. It's just kind of it's a segue. Was it really necessary? I don't know. Is it a big deal? I don't know.
Did you fall back asleep, Peter, when you heard this, or did you wake back up?
Yes, I'm going to hate you for life because it takes me hours to fall asleep. I hate you motherfuckers that fall asleep in like 3 seconds. I hate you people with a passion. So
I blame my wife. She put a blanket around me. So
yeah, anything to add on that? I mean, there's not much to say about this. It's an interlude.
Yeah, I mean, if the question is, if it wasn't here, would you miss it?
No.
I mean,
I wouldn't.
Probably
not. Yeah.
But it's not hurting being there. It's a 2-minute song. It's just this little weird thing.
I like it. I mean, I like shit like that, but I wouldn't miss it if it wasn't there. It's kind of just like sometimes like interludes like this are kind of weird because it's like, what's the point of this?
Maybe that
was kind of just, breaking things up a little bit, but it's not necessary. But it's not.
It could have been one of those band things where Vince Vaughn said, "Hey, WD, you want a little spotlight, bro? Here you go." I don't know.
The only thing I could think of is in my notes is around the theme again, and
there is.
Is this about acceptance of reality? Is that like low?
Well, here we go. Real quick on that one, I didn't read it. There is a Twin suns reverie, two suns above the dunes, this warmth that cradles the desert as a mirage, offering light, shadow, and breath. Two suns that shape the distant horizons, plenitude. The past is no more, the future will never be. There you go, again, the yin and the yang. The past is no more, the future will never be. Nothing, nothing to change, nothing to await, nothing to reach. A Lao Tzu quote, with the sun and the moon in the sky, I do not mourn what is lost. I only watch what is. Again, these deep philosophical quotes that are just mystic. They're mystic quotes, basically. They're mystical about.
Like he's quoted Albert Camus, and Albert Camus is linked to existentialism, but I know he wasn't an existentialist. He was into absurdism and stuff like that. And that's what I think of there's almost an element of existentialism about this, rather than trying to put all these sort of preconceived or predefined notions or ideas of what things should be. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Well, all right, we'll get this last track. I got to get Jimmy out of here. So, The End Becomes Grace sounds very enslavedy for those first 3 minutes, man. It just very enslavedy from eld-ishness, frostishness. It's kind of in that vein. At the beginning of the track, until about 3 minutes in, you get some black metal screams in there for the first real kind of time. Very Viking-y vibe in that Fields of Fire visuals for me. Very proggy, though. I would also say that it kind of has a later enslaved vibe of like In Times, that era. Very much in that, kind of Retir and yeah. So maybe even even a slight bit of Ethica Odini kind of vibes too. At 3.5 minutes, we go into a sonic wormhole and we hear mostly ghostly synths, warbling, aquatic lapping meaning like waves lapping, obviously, with gentle drifting. I got myself. We'll just say, piano or guitar notes driving and swaying in the cosmic morass. The gentle wash of sounds lulling you to sleep. Here's where Peter was sleeping. Then back to the beginning motif of the guitars in slave vein, and then around 9 minutes in, we go full trad metal, man. Full trad metal. Until the last 2 minutes, which are this fade out in ambience, from 9 minutes to about from 9 minutes to about, that's wrong. From 7 to 9 minutes, it goes full trad. You get these epic, clean, choir-like vocalizations. You get a false ending, and then as the final 2 minutes are this basically washes of synth and ambience. I feel this might be the only slight misstep on the album for me. I do really like this track. I love a lot of it, but I also felt like there was the middle period of washing and lapping was 3 or 4 minutes that could have not had to have been there, or could have been condensed just to 1 or minute and a half or something. And I do think that easing out, I guess it's kind of a tie-in and a coda to the easing in that we get on Shadows, but it's kind of weird. It has this abrupt sort of like crescendo, and then it goes into the ambient 2 minutes, and it feels kind of like, oh, is that it? Because it was almost like I was expecting another track, and it wasn't there. That's my only slight misstep on the whole album. Let's tie this up with this, and then we'll tie the whole thing up and wrap it. Okay, sound good? Jimmy, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I think this track, like The Fall Opens the Sky, can definitely be guilty of maybe coming off as just like, here's a bunch of cool parts, kind of just strung together in a way. Like all the parts are really great, but it's just kind of it definitely feels like maybe the most, if you want to say, progressive kind of song on here. It's definitely another song on the album that took me quite a few listens to really like kind of connect with it, I guess. And when it did, I connected with it pretty hard, to be honest. Just because even if it's not like the most well constructed track, maybe it wouldn't have been exactly what I wanted to go out on this album. I ended up really, really loving it after, just because of, I love that middle trad metal part. I just love the sound of the guitar.
It's super cool, man. Down, those riffs are like down, ding, ding, down, down. It's like it's such a trad metal chord sequence that you just don't hear out of him very often.
Yeah.
I think this track would have been the centerpiece in the middle and put stars on the sky at the very end would have been killer. Because
that could have worked too.
You would have tied the two epic pieces. I think he went more sky in the middle to be the centerpiece. But real quick, I just want to read the lyrics for this one. A sea of stars and silence, liquid flesh. The ego has fallen silent. The name is no more. A vast and boundless cosmic ocean where galaxies drown. All is connected. All is connected. Boy, bud. All is fluid. Together as one at the end of a journey that traces a circle through the heart of the universe. Not an end, but a return. Life and void breathe as one. Here eternity abides. The Ouroboros. The circle. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Again, the eternal question, what's it all about? Why? What was the point of all this?
Yeah.
So go ahead, Kel.
Well, real quick.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Jeff, I wasn't quite done yet.
I'm sorry. My bad.
It's all good. You interrupted me. I wasn't finished yet. So.
I'm sorry. I fucked up. Yep.
Yeah. I was just going to say really quickly, just to wrap it up, I really ended up loving this track, and it grows on me every time I hear it. I really love where it ends because I think the reason why is because it just ends up being an earworm. Like just all the melodies that it builds up to towards the end just ends up working really well. And then it goes out with that sort of like ambient piece, which I really like how that's placed because it kind of just makes you step back and be like, whoa. And then
it ties in with the beginning. The beginning is that ethereal.
And you sort of collect kind of the experience just with that going out of it. You know, the first time I heard that, I was like, that's a really cool way to go out here. I really dig that. But that was it.
Kellen?
Yeah, the issue I have with I guess if you were to look at it by pure minutes on this album, I guess you're talking about the closing almost 15 minutes of it. There's too many false starts. Trying to build a sense of pacing and coherency during that time period is a bit of a challenge for me. And I understand if like a very dedicated listener, you know, you're listening and kind of, especially going through like the lyrical content, you can understand its meaning to kind of have this broad sort of liquid, you know, whatever, this scene brought to you on the album. You're trying to get like a ocean in space kind of feel.
Right.
But I struggled to connect with the back end of this record, or let's say the last 15 minutes of this record, just because I felt like they were trying to put together like a story narrative and did not have a coherent way to make it connect musically. And I just felt like that was a bit of a missed opportunity in terms of nailing the back end of this record in the way that I think they could potentially have. There's nothing really wrong with this song as much as I feel it's too fragmented. And so I don't have this sort of like coherent experience for the back, 15 minutes of it.
I'm a little further along than you on it, but I'm not, I completely understand exactly where you're coming from because it was the one slight part of it that I felt was just a minor misstep. And, I have to admit, my clickbait title was completely that, Disasterpiece or Masterpiece. I mean, come on, it's like, that was total clickbait bullshit. And I don't generally do that, but I was hoping to bring a lot of eyeballs in, and so far it ain't working. But yeah, Peter, how about you?
Yeah, my initial listen to this one, I just felt like it was a bit of a missed opportunity considering how long it was. But I have listened to this about 5 times now, so I'm starting to sort of understand it a bit more now. It starts with kind of a very uplifting melody that I thought was maybe going to lead into the resolution of this whole the guy's self transcending through all the different previous sort of beliefs and struggles.
Yeah.
But then it sort of changes into that sort of, like you mentioned, that traditional heavy metal. But also in that progressive sort of riff, and I've noted down here, it's kind of reminded me a wee bit again of Voivod, while the sort of melodies, the swirls around it, but the conclusion sort of left me a wee bit without a resolution. But the more I've listened to it, because it was trying to cram a lot in for this stream,
right,
it feels like a circle. So I don't know if it is actually the conclusion of the album that I really expected it to be, or else you start all over again, and now you're starting through that journey of reviewing yourself over and over again that you should probably do continuously. Or else is there going to be another album in a similar vein coming? I don't know, but
we always wonder that with him. But I mean, it could carry on, but we don't know because he's always somewhat unpredictable in that sort of realm, you know.
Yeah. So today, I think I crammed a lot in today actually. So I probably listened to it about 3 times in a row, and it started to make sense each time. I went to the end and I'm back to the start again. I went through it all again and started to make a bit more sense for me, but. Yeah, it's just for what, 15 minutes? So it's long as song.
51.
Oh, no, for this particular song.
It's 12 and a half. 12,
right,
12,
so yeah, I just thought, well, actually the 51 minutes starts to go through really, really quickly.
It does. This album moves. This album moves. It doesn't drag at all. Let's do some final quick thoughts here so Jimmy can split. Anybody got anything happening big they want to announce real quick before we dip out? No? Okay. January 3rd. January 3rd again. The big top 25 of 25. I'm not drinking anymore. Kind of pretty much gave it up. So I won't be as chatty, although come on, let's be honest here. Am I ever not chatty, for fuck's sake? Let's be honest. But I'm going to try and keep it moving. And again, it's going to be the same thing like last year, where if you want to dip in and just do a top 10, because I know some people are doing, Jimmy, you've done a top 10 already. Kellen, you're doing a top 10, I think, what, Friday is it?
Yeah.
Or, and Rick, same. So I will have 25. I think Rick will have 25. Who knows who else will join with 25. Peter, I think you're going to jump in later. Roger's going to pop in from overseas. It's going to be a cast. It'll be insane, as usual. This is an incredibly ear-friendly Blut Aus Nord album. Hardly any real intense dissonance or angularity. In fact, it's in a lot of ways, it's very soft and supple. It's got a lot of rounded edges to it in terms of what I'm hearing. It's soothing. It's soaring and soothing mentally. It's hypnotic. The vibe throughout it kind of bleeds beauty and wide-eyed wonder at the vastness of the universe, but the external universe and the internal universe. So it's kind of a magical ride in that way of inner space. For me, this ranks very highly in the catalog, and while it's I feel a pretty new sound overall, it does harken back to Dialogue for the metal parts, and of course the vast epicness of Hallucinations. But that one had more of a trippy psych vibe to it. This one doesn't really have the psychedelic vibe much to it, and the melodies are far more memorable to me on this album than Hallucinations. I wanted to listen to Hallucinations. I didn't get back to it because I had too much Y&T to digest. So that's where I'm going to go when we're done tonight. I'll probably throw that on just to kind of reacquaint what I remember from it. Jimmy, how about you? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise why I like this so much, is because like this is the record I wanted from him. You know, I mean, like I like it better than Hallucinogen, and this is like the kind of sound that I like the most from him, just being like kind of the MD, kind of similar to that. It doesn't feel to me like it's a new series or anything. It feels to me like it's another sort of singular statement in the way that Hallucinogen was. But you know, for all whatever faults that it may have, I think it kind of it does the trick for me in terms of being a pure escapist album, which most Blut Aus Nord music is escapist music, you know. But that's what I kind of tend to love the most, and that usually is what tends to go to the top of my year-end list as well, and that's as a result is why it ranks so high for me. It was funny the other nights, you know, going through our lists and being in a forum that's mostly black metal guys. You know, this record was kind of met with crickets.
Was it really?
Yeah, which is kind of funny. I mean, I know Tyler does not like this band at all. It's just not his bag. The other guys, I feel like
it's not cult enough for him, dude.
Yeah, well, you know,
Love
he's
you,
got a very
Tyler.
specific. Well, he's got a specific like
Yeah.
what he digs as far as when it comes to black metal, you know. And so I can kind of we've talked about it before, so I kind of get. But it's always kind of funny because it just didn't get a whole lot. Like it just obviously it didn't do to anybody else what it did for me. But
Nobody else
it's all
mentioned
good.
it. Nobody else mentioned it.
No.
Wow.
No, I don't even know if any of those guys even listen to it. I mean,
That's
I know
crazy.
Fan likes this band, but not like hugely. And Ryan, like he likes like the more nightmarish stuff. I don't. This album probably is not up his alley. So, but no, it was not really mentioned at all. But yeah, man. I mean, like for me, again, like this is what I wanted, and he delivered on what I was hoping for. Is it perfect? You know, probably not. But I mean, for what's, you know, the frequencies that I want to tune into are chock full on this album. Kind of what I needed from him, and it's satiated me for whatever's to come next. And yeah, so I did. You know, I think he did a fantastic job as far as all the stuff I've heard this year. It really ranks very, very highly for me.
And you made a very key point that this is what you want to hear from him. But if he was cranking this album out every album cycle, we'd be like, all right, where's the dissonance? Where's the ugliness? Because that's the expectation. There is an expectation, but it's the not knowing sometimes it's kind of the best part of it with this guy. You know what I mean?
And that's the beautiful thing about this band, you know, is that he's got a lot of different flavors, you know, and like any band that just would have, you know, a lot of bands are going to suffer from that, is that, you know, like they're really good at one thing, but eventually they're going to burn out a bit on it, you know, and like, you know, I mean, there's bands that exist that are good enough that, or have enough music in the well that they've done a good job of that. But I do agree. I think if he was just doing this sort of thing, it would burn out pretty quickly. And that he's got a lot of he's unique in the fact that he can do different styles, you know, in terms of like but it's always still him. You can always tell that it's Vinzval, no matter if he's doing the really nightmarish stuff, or it all still does feel cohesive in terms of like his sound, and still manages to like, you know, give you a whole different flavor of his universe, you know, and I love that about this band. So.
But is it just him, or is it W.D. Feld and Gost? We just inquiring minds want to know. Kellen, for wrap up.
I guess I'm not quite as high on this record overall. Like where it would rank specifically in the catalog for me, be somewhere in the middle. I feel it's more rooted in themes that have been previously explored, so it's not like lost to the weird part of the catalog that feels completely sort of isolated. You know, when I think of records that were mentioned tonight, like Morton Odinist, those are time periods where I feel like he was truly experimenting.
I agree. I see where you're going with it.
Chances, you know, and in a certain way that he felt free to explore. And I think when you look back at that period of his, you know, the catalog, I don't know if Candlelight felt a certain kind of pressure, like, hey, give us back another classic industrial record or another, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what they all do. I don't think Debemur Morti is that kind of a label.
Right. But I think that's one of the things, though, is I think that's one of the, once they, you know, he arrives finally, he's like, fine, I'll give you your classic record. Here's dialogue. And then he bounces out, right? Yep. And then he gets to Debemur Morti, and I feel he's totally free to do whatever he wants.
Yep.
And I what I was trying to kind of get to is like, I think there is enough of a connection to previous parts of the Debemur Morti catalog with Hallucinogen and Cosmosophy. Those are the two major influences I hear on this record.
Yep.
That are going to appeal to a lot of like the latter day Blut Aus Nord fans. We're talking like the past 15 years.
Pretty much, yeah.
So that's you know, half of the career. Yeah. So this is the first band I can say as a collector and as a fan, I am kind of a completist. Like I've signed up from the beginning of the journey. There are going to be all sorts of good albums and okay albums and ones I'm disappointed with.
I agree.
In amongst the classics.
Yeah.
This won't be like the first one I grab from the shelf, but I'm super like excited to see this turn away from kind of the nightmarish stuff that we got previously. And I to Jimmy's point, like, yeah, if you this is not just a black metal band. I could totally understand the I'll say black metal hiking crew, but like the hardcore nature pagan crew
Nah, it's
people,
not
like I could understand. Like
not
I
for
go
them.
to them for a reason.
Yeah,
You know,
not
you
not
invite Jimmy and Peter on for the Moon Sorrow stream for a reason.
yeah.
So I'm just trying to like get to that's not this band's about. And even they were completely disconnected from black metal at some level in my mind. I no longer think that's what they should be associated with.
Yeah, and I think you really have to look at Vin's and the crew and BAN as a collective. You have to throw that P word at them, man. You have to throw the P word at them because they kind of personify what progressive is in that there's never a definitive it's gonna be this unless he tells you. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just to kind of get off a little bit all before I close here. I remember John McLaughlin talking about his time working with Miles Davis and coming to a record and being like, "This is all about getting lost in space." Like he meant it did not mean in a literal space, but mean musically.
The space of the music.
I'm going to give you a couple of chords, and then you collectively as a band have to find your way to operate within that world.
Exactly.
And
True.
I think, you know, the French band Magma comes to mind when I think of just because they also play, they're from France.
Yep.
And I think Vince Vaughn had mentioned them as an influence. They're 100% a part of the sound.
Weird as fuck band and very difficult to get your head around.
But I think a lot of people would call Blut Aus Nord weird as fuck.
I agree.
So I think it makes sense that they kind of in that same space. So it's a good record. I did not hesitate once picking it up, and I'm along for the journey. Thank you for the whole crew, Jimmy, for joining us on this stream here. So I'll let Peter close here.
Peter, close us out.
Yeah, I suppose I'll just focus on some of the positives I took from it was the vocals and the different variation and execution of the vocals. What was mentioned at the top of the show when I just joined was the drum sound. I did like that quite a bit. And I think an unsung hero from this album so far is the rhythm guitars and the rhythms that go through it. Because we have it as, you know, as usual sort of sword and melodies that weave through songs and stuff. But I just really, that was something I was picking out for it was the rhythm guitars. But yeah, I think it's probably, I don't know, at the minute it doesn't seem challenging enough to me to put it high enough up. Well, I mean, when we did the deep dive, I think I put Mort in the top 3, which I never thought I would do, but after experiencing that,
I did too. I never thought I would do that either. So
I mean, compared to Mort, this is a walk in the park. You know, this is
yeah.
So I don't know where. I mean, I do like it's really well executed. The productions.
There's definitely a softball compared to a fucking 150-mile-an-hour fastball, right? Which is a real thing. But
and because I only decided to listen to it so late because I was waiting on my CD to arrive. In my mind for a top 5, it might creep in there if I give it a few more listens over the next couple of days. But
yeah, this is probably a top 5 or 7 for me pretty easily in the catalog. You know, I definitely think it's up there. It is. That's a good way of putting it, though. This is a much less challenging BAN record than a lot of the other stuff. Even something like Cosmosophy has some weirdness going on in it that you have to work your way through. I remember when I got Cosmosophy and Desanctification, man, I was like, what world did I just enter here, man? And I couldn't get my head around SECTS, sex, and I have to do that. Because it sounds like I'm saying sex. Can't get my head around sex, man. Well, that might be true. But anyway, moving on. That album was tough for me as Desancta is. Now those are 2 of my favorite albums. So this is a less challenging album, but I don't think it's any less rewarding in the long run. But it could be a gateway drug for a lot of people into this band. And it could be a little bit confusing because if you come in here and you jump back and hit Nahab, you're going to be like, what in the fuck just happened to me? You know what I mean? Or Mort or something, or Odinist, or, Mystical Beast, which I'm not a big Mystical Beast guy. I think you are, Kevin. That one just, Kellen.
Yeah, I mean, Mystical Beast was important, but it's the following record that was like life-changing
one for me to get through. And I'm not even a great Ultima Thule father of the Icy Age. Again, those are big bangers too, and I struggle with those a little bit because they just sound too lo-fi for me because I'm not a huge fan of the lo-fi stuff. But guys, all right, this is closer to 2 hours. We had some stress with the early getting shit going because I'm a dunce and I got to remember to turn the fucking echo cancellation on when I play tracks. I have to turn echo cancellation off so it doesn't echo out when it goes out through the internet. But if I don't turn it back on, like I did, I turned it off last night, and that was what was doing it. So, Peter, my apologies. This is all me.
I was doing everything you were asking me to do.
I know.
I was like, that's me. I had to turn off access to my whole camera.
Peter got off camera, and he's like, fuck this guy, man. Just fuck this guy. Why did I buy a laptop to be on his stupid streams?
And a microphone.
Yeah, so that was on me, and I will make it a point to make sure every stream I start that is off. So that was all on me. My apologies. Jimmy, dude, man, bro, we've gotten some good shit in here the last 2 weeks, and
absolutely,
I'm still sick. I'm on prednisone and freaking antibiotics, and I just can't seem to beat this thing. But
you sound better than last time.
I am better. I'm moving in the right direction. But
well, hey, I'm stoked to hear all your guys' lists. I'm really looking forward to.
I'm going to see you on the 3rd. At least for a drop in.
I'll drop in. I'll probably at least be in the chat, but I'm looking forward to Friday for HM to see their Kellen and all those guys' lists, and then your lists.
Oh, that's right. Kellen, what's the deal on that?
Yeah, so Friday the 26th at 9 p.m. on Heavy Metallurgy. The crew will be assembling for our end of 2025 top 10. Probably some honorable mentions get thrown in there as well.
If Rick's on there, you're gonna have 4,870.
If we can get Rick to stay away from the edibles, I think we'll be okay.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I don't know. He was streaming last night during my Y&T, and I got a little fucking pricked. I was like, "Thanks for doing that tonight," while I'm, getting fucking aced over here. Nobody's watching my old man hair metal rock thing. Thanks to you, but we're good. Everything's cool. I love Rick. He's one of my dearest friends in my life. So, but yeah, keep him away from the edibles, man. That can be a little rough because it goes one way for a while where he's just blah, 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 and then.
Yeah, I think we'll be good. All
right. So that's on Heavy Metallurgy at 9 o'clock Friday night. Jimmy, you're wrapped for the rest of the year, I'm guessing, other than
we did our stream this past Friday. If anybody missed it, that's on my channel.
Check that out. I'll link it afterwards, and I'll try to link I'll link the Heavy Metallurgy thing afterwards. Peter, when's the fucking channel coming, brah? What you got?
Good question.
What is it?
It's like you got something coming.
Your LP is in New York
today. York, Pennsylvania?
New York.
Oh, New York. Okay, so it's here. All right. Yeah, that's going to be a cool one I get to show. You'll probably show that one too. Thanks to Peter, but you'll have to tune in on the 3rd to see what that's all about. Did the Broncos win?
I don't know yet. I'm about to go find out. I'm actually going to jump, guys. Thank you so much. I'll catch you guys real soon, okay?
All right, brother. Thanks, love you, man. Have a great holiday.
Too.
Say hi to Sarah for me.
I sure will. All right, guys. I'll check you soon for sure.
Yeah. Catch you later. I would give this a 9.5 out of 10 if I'm scoring it on the Jeff scale, the 10 scale. And man, it's to tie it really quickly. We talked about the lyrical analysis, the themes of it, this kind of yin and yang, this great unanswerable questions of life, the light and the dark, the shade, the shadow, all that stuff, and it's all there. I do think that we talked about inspiration as far as certainly there's dialogue, there's hallucination, there's cosmosophy. It's all thematically it's in there, but I do think that there is some added stuff to this one that I just haven't really heard before, and that's more the traditional metal vibes, and even that little Voivodian weirdness in the what's it called? What Burns Now Listens. So lots to get into here, but I fully understand where Kellen's coming from, and Peter, in that the challenging part wasn't quite there, and Kellen, for you, that it's the back half of the album isn't quite what you would have hoped for out of it.
I mean, it's a similar thing. Is like, I think when we did the stream talking about the full discography, Hallucinogen was the one that I felt least inspired by. And it was for the exact same reason that I think Peter mentioned, is that for some reason in my, like, for my preferences as to where this band does something incredibly well, is I came in with sort of their important role in developing sort of industrial / avant-garde kind of sound within the genre.
Right.
And then when this band decides to delve into like this, I want to call it the Norwegian style of black metal, when they kind of dip their toes into that, I think they have some talent there that few bands, like, it's difficult to replicate. They have a unique sound within that space, I should say. And we got a glimpse of it on Father of the Icy Age, you know, when he was so young.
Yeah, very young
on that record.
Had to be in his late teens or early 20s, man.
Yeah,
like,
and so we get this classic in my mind in Dialogue with the Stars, and Saturnian Poetry kind of feels like an abrupt, like, okay, I gotta close the story.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
And so what I was really hoping when I heard this record was that he would sort of reopen that door, but within this kind of cosmic, you know, right? Because it felt on Dialogue with the Stars, it was still grounded in traditional black metal, but he was talking like, Peter mentioned that kind of metaphysical exploration that happens within Buddhism, right? Like, that is something that I think he was going to explore, right? Not just like cosmos in the way that symphonic black metal had talked about it, but in a way that was potentially different for Blut Aus Nord. And we never really get that from him, in my mind.
Interesting.
Hallucinogen is so rolls along, kind of shimmery, atmospheric black metal.
I think the one thing I would say about Hallucinogen that's not like this is this. There's more of this. Hallucinogen is kind of linear the whole way through,
but the ease of entry they both share.
Yeah, they definitely do. There's no question about that. Yeah. I mean, the melodic earwormy shit between these two albums is very comparable. Right. But I think you get a little bit more roller coastery on this album than you do on Hallucinogen's. A lot more. It kind of starts here and just ascends. It's more linear, right?
It's very upbeat. I mean, I watched or listened to this on YouTube just before I came in here, and it seeped into Hallucinogen came up afterwards. So it's trying to pair, the algorithm is trying to pair both albums. But even just hearing the first few sort of minutes of it, I was thinking that is quite upbeat compared to this.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So January 3rd, top 25 of 25. I wait till the end of the year. Everybody else has to do it before the end of the year. Although I don't think there's anything sneaking in this last 2 weeks. Although there was some stuff, there was a few things that dropped that I was like, I'm going to steer clear. Nothing major that was like, oh, this is going to change the dynamics of everything. But a couple of things. I don't know when that Lichgate is coming out. Do you know? That's next year, right?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I think it's Lichgate. But a classic example is the official release date for the new Over album is the 31st. I've had a promo of it for like a month, but it's officially released for digital on the 31st. Only Ulver would do that. Like, I mean, come on, like, who the fuck else is doing that, right? I don't think that's a Friday either, is it?
It's a Thursday.
Yeah, it's a Thursday. So again, who does that? But the physicals don't come out till next year. So, Ruins is next year too. So we're good there. Lots to go over there. Lots of cool shit. And then the only other thing for me, like I said, I'm going to dip a a collection update in here probably next week sometime. I've got a few more LPs that are outstanding that should be in next week, and gonna try to drop a 3 of Imperfect Pair with Dane, my friend from Australia, from Deciduous Forest. We're gonna talk about Imperium. I forget the other 2 bands. I'll have to check, but I'll make an announcement on that soon. And then I am going to try really hard this coming Saturday. If Rick doesn't hose me again with Rick, you hear me? Do not fucking hose me, bro. Don't hose me, man. I don't want to be hosed by you. Saturday night, I'm going to try to knock out part 2 of the Church deep dive. Peter, you got to get on that shit because I know you'll love that band. Do you know the Church much, Kellen?
I don't.
You know Under the Milky Way, right?
Uh-uh.
Under the Milky Way tonight. You had to have heard that song in the grocery store. Come on, really?
I mean,
I knew what I was looking.
How could I forget? Yeah.
Anyway, all right. I wouldn't be surprised if you would really dig Priest Equals Aura. That album, I think it's definitely in your realm. So
all good.
I have no streams for Saturday, I assure you. He was lurking. Fucking Rick was still lurking, bastard. But anyways, yeah. So will we get a Thorns album in 26? I think is that the guy that mysteriously disappeared on the mountainside, but now he's back? That guy? I think it is, right?
That was his stunt, wasn't it?
Snora Rouge, right? Yeah. Kind of weird. Kellen, to you and your wife. I know it.
Corinne?
There we go. You got it.
I was going to say Colette, but it's Corinne.
Different French name, but you're very close. Yes.
Close. Starts with a C. Come on, man. I'm an old man. Just cut me a fucking.
Yeah, I got you.
With a brain disease. You guys have a great Christmas, man, and hopefully I'll see you on the 3rd, maybe for a drop in for maybe a different top 10 or whatever. Sure. Since you're only doing 10 on Marty, maybe you can do 10 to 25 on your bottom 15 for me or whatever. Peter, I'll see you on the 3rd too, I believe, right? Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm happy to join. So, and
I will make sure. I swear to God, I will make sure I turn off echo cancellation.
I will not touch any settings.
And the sad part is, this is the second time I did it. I did it the last stream with Jimmy and Moonsorrow. I did it for that one. So I just didn't realize that when you click it off, it doesn't carry over and reset to a new stream. You got to reset it yourself. So it's in the audio settings. So guys,
when you were describing this audio swirl, I was like, what?
Oh yeah, I'm sign languaging you to the phone, and I'm like, what a dope. He has no idea what the hell I'm saying, man, I guess. Lastly, Peter, you and your wife and your kids have a wonderful holiday season. Everybody in the chat, Rick, Chris, Metal Kev,
and that's Tim there.
Tim. Oh my God, Mushi. Why am I forgetting? Maya. King Igor. Yeah, everybody, man. Everybody that joined us. Thank you so much. You guys have a great holiday season. Vinsval, if you're watching, I want an interview. You can stay dark. You can just put up a sigil, okay, whatever. But I really would love an interview, dude. I know you did an interview. You did a print interview, so I doubt you'll do this, but you did do a print interview.
He has done a few, yeah.
Yeah, well, he just did a recent one, which
did he do a recent one?
Yeah, recent, like a month ago. So it's not his normal thing, and he said, I don't typically do this, but I felt this album needed some press explanation, and so that's probably his one. He's aware of me. He's aware of us. He knows what we did. He knows.
All right.
We've had a little dialogue a while back on Instagram, way back. But Vince, if you're hearing, call me, bro. Call me, bro.
Do you think he does the Facebook for Blut Aus Nord?
You mean runs it?
Yeah, because he posts. Have you ever looked at the music he posts? You can see where he was going with this.
No, not really. I haven't. I hate to say. I don't go on Facebook very often. I try to stay away from it. But even though I use, the Instagram thing. So, all right, boys, hang on one sec, all right? Everybody, have a great holiday. We'll see you maybe Saturday night for the church. And definitely everybody drop in on the 3rd of January for the big Lollapalooza 25 extravaganza. All right. All right. Hang on one sec, guys.
Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades. Gas masks and hand grenades.